up, Catherine Ellis? How are you?
Hello,
Welcome
hello,
to
hello.
episode 3.
I know. Can you believe it? We're going through them pretty rapid, but
Yeah.
that's all good. That's all good. Yeah.
How have you felt about episode 1 and 2 so far?
They were really good. Some really good solutions. I think we've got, we've got more, and I think it's going to really be a great opportunity for people to see and start thinking about different solutions. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, I'm excited. Let's
Yeah,
get
me
into
too.
it.
Yep. So everyone that's watching, welcome to the show. This is a learning design competition, a global one for learning designers of all skill levels. And basically, they are challenging themselves with taking on a fictional brief, which I'll get to in a minute. And they put in a submission saying, this is the solution that I recommend as best for you, Mr. and
Yep.
Mrs. Client at Liberty City. Now, the show is running in conjunction with the Learning Conference, a cool event coming up. And one of the sneak peeks that we'll let you into now is we're going to have Tim Slade as one of our experts, and he's going to be going through visual design for e-learning. Kath, what can people expect from Tim Slade's session?
Do you know, Tim Slade is he's a funny man, and he's very, very talented. So it's going to be very entertaining. He's very transparent, so he's going to be showing you lots of examples. He's going to be talking probably about when he started his experience as a instructional designer, and he won't mind me saying this. You know, he admits that he says, I was like, oh my god, terrible in the beginning.
I think we all
yeah, I think if we all went back and looked at our first piece of work, but I was lucky enough to see him live last year, and the room was humongous, and it was packed to the rafters of people just laughing. So it's going to be a great session, and he's just going to share loads of tips. So
very cool. Very
it's
cool.
going to be
very
great.
Exciting, practical solution session coming up with Tim Slade. All right,
Yep.
Let's see who our special guest is as we get into the show.
Ooh.
All right, special guest on episode 3 is Raf. Raf is a learning guy. That was the intro that I was provided by Raf. But coming up on screen right now is Raf. Raf, what are you up to in terms of learning?
Thanks for that intro, Kim. Yeah, definitely nailed it. That was the brief I gave. I said, hey, just say I'm the learning guy. Very excited to be on this. What am I up to in learning? So I've recently started my own gig, which the way I guess summarize it is I try to help organizations have a positive impact in people's day-to-day working experience using learning as a tool for that. I think that's probably kind of summarizing it for me. Really, really big focus on, I guess, the end users, the learners, the people, and kind of really championing them as the biggest stakeholder in any piece of learning. So I guess that's kind of what I'm positioning out there and seeing how it goes. I was just reflecting on my first piece of work I did in e-learning, because you guys got me reminiscing, and I can remember the first thing I ever created, like literally the first job. The first thing I ever did in e-learning was an intro animation to an onboarding module for a company that owns like dairy and fruits and all that sort of thing. And it was like this green kind of vista, think Windows kind of vista. And there were like orange trees around it, and cartons of milk were dropping into it, and the trees were bouncing. And at the very end, one orange just dropped to the ground and slightly rolled away. And like everyone's watching it, like, oh, that's funny. And it hits, and like burst out laughing. And I was like, yes, I'm going to keep my job. I've done a good job.
That's cool. Is that in your portfolio still today?
Oh, goodness. I don't think so, because my portfolio probably would have relied on Flash. If it's somewhere, it doesn't work anymore.
Nice one.
Yes, let's do it. We have, I want to say, Abd, and he's an instructional designer who's a freelancer. And we've got Simon House, who's an L&D consultant. So Abd, it says, I'm looking for more to enrich education for learners, however possible. Okay. Now, Abd unfortunately didn't submit anything, so unfortunately you're out, Ab. You're eliminated. I'm going to move on to Simon House. He has a Chief Constable's Commendation for designing and delivering a complex training program for 7,000 staff. I love using video-based branching scenarios, but the opportunity doesn't arise often enough. After a few years focusing on face-to-face design, it's fun to get back into e-learning. All right, let's have a look at what Simon submitted.
Well, even with his passion for video and interactive, he hasn't pushed that as his solution, which is good because he's not pushing what he would love to do. He's looking at the needs of his client. So Simon is saying, let's use Articulate 360. It's great being able to use the review function and that feedback mechanism. So that works well with the updates that are happening regularly. And it is deployed as HTML5 from their website. So he's saying, no, we don't need SCORM. We're going to pod it and host it on their website. He's saying it should be text-based. So he doesn't want to put any audio or video in there. And that makes it easier to update. And the info is more timeless. And he will be linking out to external websites for information. And what he's also considered, which is really good for the client at Liberty City, is his budget allows for text updates over future months. So he's not using all the budget at once. He's saying, I can do this amount with the budget, and then I will be available to support you with those updates so it's future proof. Raf, what are your reactions to Simon's solution?
Yeah, so I think I like it. I like a methodology of keep it simple, stupid, and I think this works. Using text is universal to everyone, so there isn't a particular kind of demographic that will respond to it better or not. Obviously dependent on how it's written, but it makes a lot of sense. It looks intuitive to use, like straight off the bat. If it loaded up, you don't need onboarding instructions or too much of that sort of information to kind of get you going and actually access the information. So visually easy to navigate. Tech solution, I like it. I like that he's thought about that client experience in terms of, hey, you guys are probably going to want to update this over time as kind of the situation develops or whatever it is. So he's kind of giving that freedom for them to come to him, and also using a tool like Articulate 360 means they'll have capability internally as downstream. So yeah, really cool. I like it. I like the superimposing on the screenshot as well. I like that he's taken the extra time to do that.
Yeah, that's cool. Kath, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like the way it was explained to the client. I like that he's kind of put a solution in place that in the future he can still continue to do updates for the client. I mean, Articulate 360, you can do anything with it. You definitely can do you definitely can do a one that's suitable for a phone. And I think if you think about the variables that you could put in the background, that you could actually do something that was appropriate for a child, for an adult, for, there's ways that you could customize it for different types of users. So looks a really, really, really good solution.
Cool. Take us on to the next.
All right, let's go on to the next one. We have got Fakhar Imam, who's an instructional designer and e-learning developer at the University of Management and Technology, and Chaitra Dixit, who's an L&D specialist at InEvent Spaces. So let's have a look at what Fakhar said about himself. He says he's an instructional designer and e-learning developer, and this is what he submitted.
Alrighty. So what he's saying, his tool is 360, Articulate 360. And he loves the idea of this because it's interactive. And he really wanted to push away from the rapid authoring tools that are not as flexible when it comes to interactivity. And I think that's how he is proposing to get engagement with his learners. He talks a lot about how the different publishing can work. So he said, this is a great tool, when it comes to SCORM, Tin Can API, XAPI. And so he's gone for, which we haven't seen much of yet, is the photo style for our submissions. A lot of them are illustrations. So it's quite unique to see this one using photos. What do you think of that, Raf?
I think, yeah, I mean, visually it's quite nice. I think it's really clean. The layout's really nice, well balanced. I think the idea of, again, using a storyline, you know, we know it can publish, we know it can be stylized to work in that format. So that makes sense. I like that he's called out, I guess, the different publishing formats. And I guess the one that for me stands out is the XAPI, because I guess while that is an LMS type format that you can track once you've got your LRS and everything put together. The upside is that the content won't necessarily have to be hosted in a learning environment. So I think, you know, what he could create here is something that can be hosted online, but you still get metrics around who's kind of acting, kind of doing what. So you can get a bit of tracking around behaviors. In terms of having it, I guess, a little bit more interactive and scenario driven, I think that'd probably be great for, you know, maybe the younger audience where you need to get their engaged. Like they're not going to have buy-in into, oh, I want to know what Corvid is, but they might have buy-in into something that's rich and engaging and kind of teach them behaviors as a byproduct of something that's a little bit more gamified perhaps. So I like that he's kind of considered a slightly different approach and making it a bit more immersive, because I think that'd hit the mark for that type of audience for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I was going to say that I could see something like this going on a domain name and just being put, you know, having a domain name forward through to Amazon S3 or something like that, and having that kind of experience. It certainly is laid out that way. You could go a number of ways, and like Raf said, you know, he's on the money. You'd want to be pulling data out of the back of this to see usage, and, you know, even is there anything that you can put in there that you can capture that's, you know, are we missing any information, things like that. So, you know, you might have, I mean, the sky's the limit really with what you can do with articulate storyline, but you may kind of have a frequently asked questions, and then have something like, you know, is there anything else that you'd like to know about, you know, I don't know. So yeah, you'd want to be capturing data into it out of the back of it, certainly, to see its usage. So yeah, good solution.
Nice. Who's next?
We've got Chaitra. I'm trying to make sure that I'm saying her name right. She looks so lovely. I am a passionate designer delivering creative and engaging solutions. In a nutshell, my passion for creativity and constant learning is accompanied by the thrill of content production. So let's have a look at what she submitted.
All right. So she wants to use Articulate 360, right? Now, what she has said is it's an emphasis on using the JavaScript function within the tool. She hasn't specified what that might be about, but can you guys, for people that may not be aware, what would you say are the benefits of using that JavaScript availability within 360 for something like this? Have you got any examples that might help people understand the benefits of that?
Yep, so I can give you an example. I've certainly, depending on the experience, to see how they've got like a login as per age and things like that. She could essentially kind of have a bit of a system. For example, I've used JavaScript to pull data out to a Google Sheet. So when someone's gone through a whole experience, I mean, it's a bit like XAPI, but it's not. It's just going to a Google Sheet. But they could essentially track what someone has done through a Google Sheet. But I mean, JavaScript can be used for anything. You could put a date in there. You can, you know, the sky's the limit.
Like a certificate of completion, I guess.
That's right.
Like if it's for kids to like generate one that's dynamic for them, and they can put it on the fridge, color it in, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I like that, coloring it in. That's really cool. Yeah, well, she has said she wants 2 logins, so she wants them a kids version and an adult one. Raf, what else have you used JavaScript for yourself in your designs?
Really, I guess that JavaScript kind of opens up functions that aren't natively in Storyline. So for example, if you want to generate a really nice certificate, that can be one thing where you've got a file that's an empty HTML file. And then from the Storyline course, you may have asked for a name or something like that. And you can kind of bring them two together and create something like that. And then from there, it kind of gives you a little bit more flexibility around some other functionality that's, I guess, more commonplace on the internet. So how you launch certain windows, how you integrate to CAF's point with potentially databases and stuff like that. So it does open up, I guess, more capability of what you can have happen outside of the Storyline course in particular. And then obviously within it, like if you want to get really complicated, you can use JavaScript to create really complex animations or interactions or transitions. So that is, I know, capable of sort of being able to do that. Myself personally, I've never kind of been able to get quite that hands-on, but those kind of basic things like, hey, print this page out or generate a certificate or, like Kath said, generate this data to go into a Google spreadsheet. That's, I guess, the real fundamental benefits of using JavaScript.
That code, all the code languages fascinate me in terms of you can put letters together and they will visually represent something with like a blue swirl or I just don't understand how computers can translate that, but that's very cool. But let's get back into her submission. So what she wants to do is narrative storytelling with visuals, and she also wants to have a quiz in there. Now, her scenarios, which I think is quite a cool idea, she wants to have scenarios that are coming from across the globe to show real life examples that are happening for people going through this situation. And the benefits, or why she wants to do that, is because she really wants to elicit an emotional responsibility in people towards this, so that the community of Liberty City actually are emotionally connected to doing something different to support the community. I think that's really, really cool. And then she's talking about API, which is, well, this is beyond my knowledge, so I'm just going to read exactly what she has, but it's data getting seeded on a personal cloud. Please explain, anyone that may know what the answer to that actually means.
Kath?
Do you know, Kath? Or is this something for Google for people watching?
I see that there's even reference of Ajax, I think, in there, which, geez, this is getting real complicated.
I know.
Well, look, APIs, like I probably can't relate to anything in here, but I use APIs for things like when I build a WordPress website to bring a map in, it talks to Google Maps to just say, yeah, this is a legitimate connection. If I wanted to bring my Facebook feed or something like that into a website, I'd use an API. So I'd love to know more about kind of what she was thinking with this, but look, it's certainly very interesting. Visually, I like that she's kind of got some childish icons here, and she's got some icons that maybe are a different style that she can offer to the client as an alternative and say, I've got some different styles that you can do. So it's a bit, I look at this as being a bit of a mood board as well for the client that can kind of say, I've got this kind of flat imagery up here, I've got some different things. So yeah, it's certainly a good presentation for the client to think about. Yeah.
Raf, any
Shall we move on to?
Yeah, no, I think I like the fact that she's sort of, identified potentially two different pathways for different audiences. I think that's an important one. I think it'll be interesting to see if as part of her idea, she expands on sort of the outcome the audience wants. So, around a topic as complex as this, there's the awareness and understanding what's going on stuff. And then there's the behavioral stuff around, well, what do I do? So like to that, I guess, emotive side, the emotion side is kind of to motivate people to then go, well, here's the behaviors we need you to demonstrate to be contributing to a safer world environment. So I guess it'd be interesting to see how she kind of plays that out in terms of can people just jump on there and like, yeah, I already know I need to do all the stuff. Tell me what things I need to do, versus people who are kind of like, yeah, this COVID thing, I hear that 5G causes it. And, kind of be able to explore and understand what it actually is.
Yeah. Cool. Very good. Thank you, participants. Who have we got next?
Awesome job, Chaitra. Fantastic. Okay, so we have now got two powerhouses of the e-learning industry. But unfortunately, Alex has not been able to. He's been busy and hasn't been able to submit. But I'll tell you something. I love Alex's work. Alex is a chief of awesomeness at e-learning launch. And he was up against Emily Chorley, who's another super duper powerhouse in e-learning design. And she's a senior instructional designer. So, I'm just going to jump over Alex's submission and jump into Emily's. Okay, she's a long-time creative instructional designer who is dedicated to thinking outside the box. She's a self-taught articulate storyline user and is always striving to push the boundaries to make things unexpected and engaging. And here's what Emily has submitted, and I think it looks dope, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, Emily is suggesting Storyline as her tool, but she wants her supporting tool to be Adobe XD. Now, this is a new tool to me, but we've actually been using it a lot for the graphics that you're seeing around the show and the learning conference. It's a very easy enough tool to use, and at the moment it is free actually through Adobe. So it's a graphic you can export for HTML, PNG, all file formats like that. So it's quite a cool little tool to have access to. And it's going to be mobile friendly on any device, and you can basically update it using back-end data. She wants to do something which we haven't seen yet, but link to online statistics that will update from the external sources. So I think that's quite clever, because something around this topic, people do want to see that sort of stuff. And one thing that she's got in there, which is quite unique, we haven't seen yet, is that it's geolocated, which basically means that it's tapping in and going, your nearest hospital is telling you these bits of information, this doctor is putting out this stuff. So it's making it very relevant to the city of Liberty City Council and the community that they have there. So Kath, I'll throw to you. What are your thoughts on the UI and first impressions of Emily's design here?
Well, I liked it a lot, and I think it's certainly met the brief as far as being appropriate for all age groups. It's not too childish, even though there are child icons. This is a quite a modern look right now. So yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, I was interested in her approach of talking about Adobe XD, because if this is something that, for example, you couldn't do in Articulate, if you couldn't, you could build this in Webflow with ease. And things like that. So, certainly interesting. I mean, if you were building this in Articulate, you'd certainly need to be doing JavaScript work, like the conversation that we had just before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen, it was interesting. I liked how visual it was and very easy for someone to just move through. You've got the menu on each page. So, yeah, nice little solution, I thought.
Yeah, cool. And Raf, any thoughts on Emily's submission?
Yeah, so I mean, looking at it, it kind of, it screams app to me. Like the design of it, it is sort of, if I loaded up an app, like kind of the layout and the flow of it, I really like. I like the thought that's kind of gone into this. So I guess if you think about it, a lot of people would probably access a web page or a resource and kind of view it once and then be like, cool, I know everything. Which means downstream, if there was updates or something had changed, how do you generate that behavior, getting people to go back without them kind of like, it's funny because you need to go back to know that there's an update. So how do you tell them? And here, that landing page with the statistics and the phone number for the helpline, that's a motivation tool. I know for me, I'm a sticky beat. So when things were really bad, I was like on the world meter site every day, just kind of seeing how things were going. And having these metrics in here means that my curiosity would take me to this location. And then from there, through the UI and stuff, I've got all the additional information. So then, I imagine if there's kind of different symptoms, you could have like the icon maybe highlighted, kind of going, hey, visit this page because there's actually something new for you to learn. I like that she's thought about including the phone number there. So, because ultimately, this is let's say, what's covered here is 5%, 10% of the whole picture. So it's kind of thinking about, hey, this is the basics. This is what you really, really, really need to know. But then you've probably got more questions. This is where you go to. So I like the thought around that. And the geolocation stuff, again, making it relevant to me. It also means that, if I am someone who travels around a lot, I mean, none of us probably are at the moment, really. But if I do travel around a lot, it kind of means that this is, again, my source of truth of, all right, I'm in this city. What do I need to know about the current state of this city? So I like that. Nice, clean sort of layouts. Yeah, it's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
I do really like how it's almost like it's trying to keep Liberty City community safe and go to us as that point, how you said you're motivated to go back to this so that the community aren't getting clouded and scared and by all the information that's out there. And it's almost like the council in this case will be able to just filter what's relevant to their community and keep that kind of perception and that safety of their community in control so that they don't have hectic fear toilet paper being sold out at their stores because they're like, there's plenty in our local Coles.
That's the only thing missing. Yeah, statistic on toilet rolls in local supermarket.
How many are left and the distance to where they are.
Too funny.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Anyway, look, I really love that. Great solution. Let's move on.
These are our last two competitors of this episode.
Oh. Well, we have Roo, who's an instructional designer at Advisor, and Prathibha, who is a content developer at Quabole. And I hope I've said your name right, Prathibha. Okay, so let's learn a little bit more about Roo. She's the face behind Advisor. She uses an empathy-based approach to create online learning experiences that connect and convert for businesses of all kinds. As a fourth-generation educator, she enjoys blogging about her experiences as an instructional designer for others to follow. I'll have to check that out, Roo. And this is what Roo has submitted.
Yes, so this is her brief page where she's saying, I want to open with a landing page of questions. So she really wants to be able to give that personalized experience, like, are you looking for this? And that will help people connect the dots to relevant information to them. And then what she's saying is, if people go down the place of getting questions wrong or their behavior is demonstrating they need extra support, what she's saying is they will be led to the relevant information to help educate them with the things that they're kind of having a gap on. So I thought that was quite cool. And then she also wants to theme it and emphasize being a good community member of Liberty City. And I think in terms of like a local government, they definitely would care about this, where that pride in their community and trying to get the right information and support to their community. That's what she's trying to emphasize of what does a good Liberty City community member look like when they're going through this remote working or social distancing. And that's what she's trying to promote through her solution. So her tools are iSpring Suite, Canva, Loom, GIMP, G-I-M-P. I hadn't heard of that. Do you know what that is, anyone?
I think it's I think GIMP, I may be wrong, is an image editing program. Okay. I'll look it up. I'll look it up while while you're talking.
She has considered accessibility, which generally is essential to especially government organizations. So she has put emphasis on being able to use accessibility and developing with that in mind. And she's saying, like, let's get some SME generated content. Let's talk to people who know what they're doing and share that and curate that kind of content. Mm-hmm. And what are you thinking there with the colors and design of what you're seeing, Raf?
I mean, for me, I'm super excited that she's explicitly called out accessibility. So for anyone who's kind of been following me for a bit, this is a topic that gets me excited because it is a topic, one, showing that we are going to be inclusive of our entire audience, and especially for something like this, it's community-based. So it's not a little organization, it's not a few thousand people. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people can access this. And again, you will have a really strong representation of users who do need accessibility considerations. And that's not, someone's completely blind, but all the in-between, color blindness, and even to the point of, you, me, and Kath, we've all probably experienced temporary disabilities or situational disabilities where, you know, I'm in a loud environment, so I can't listen to something, or I'm in a glary environment, so the colours have to be right. So it's great to see that someone's considering that and, you know, designing in line with those accessibility requirements. And then obviously the SME generated content and kind of being able to curate that. I think that's a powerful tool because the learning experience or this page doesn't have to be, you know, the sum of all the content out there. Like, there's a whole internet. So taking on that approach of, hey, there's people already talking about this and putting material out there that's going to be relevant, just means that you can pitch the key information and allow people to kind of explore and find additional information and kind of, you know, get a really in-depth understanding of what's happening and how they should behave, without kind of us trying to, create one solution that contains everything, because, you know, we're basically trying to create the internet, which it already is there.
Yeah, exactly. Did you find out what GIMP is, Kath?
It is an image. It is an image editing. It's like a free tool, I think. Yeah.
5 points to you. You already knew the answer. Ding,
ding, ding, ding, ding, ding.
Any thoughts on this submission for Roo?
I like it was searchable, so I like that people don't have to troll through content if you can bring up kind of search functionality. As Raf said about the accessibility is great. And even the images, sometimes people need to see examples of different ideas for things. So I kind of like that she's shown some examples of, you know, kids, so, you know, you've got a bed sheet that can give you hours of fun. I remember making tents. I'm sure that you've got them around your house, Raf, now with the little ones. So, yes. You know, it's a different approach that we've seen, but again, I like the ideas that she's put forward.
Yeah, I do think the photos in this one make the stuff clickable. It invites you to find out more about it as opposed to like a text heading. So I think she's used the visual photos quite well.
Yes, very good.
All right, let's have a look at the last submission.
Okay, so Prathibha is a content developer and has submitted this through.
Cool. So what she's suggesting here is unique to what we've seen so far. And it is basically short videos hosted on YouTube. And why she's saying this is it's already pre-built to help with what Liberty City would want for their community. It's free to create an account. You don't even need an account to access it. You can get subscribers. So if people are subscribing, they are getting push notifications to say, hey, there's a new video available that you'll probably want to check out. And also she wants to take advantage of the comments section of YouTube. I think that's great, you know, just in time, being able to go, I've got a question about this, and there's someone sitting within Liberty City Council responding back to support the community, and then spreading that knowledge even wider by just using that discussion and comment function. So she's thinking it should be a person that is the expert, and she's saying it should be a health expert that's kind of doing the videos to give that credibility, but also for the emotional engagement and that rapport building, so that there's always a familiar face that people can associate with Liberty City and the communication that they're pushing out. She's going to use Camtasia for her videos and Photoshop for the graphics. And she says something that I thought was quite cool to put in her proposal for Liberty City was the video is powerful medium for engagement. Now she gives some stats. So she's saying viewers retain 95% of a video message compared with 10% of retention when text is read. So I thought that was really cool to point out to their client. What are your thoughts on this, Raf?
I like it because, again, it's using something that's already in place. So YouTube, to a point, it already exists, and it's sort of not reinventing the wheel. The other thing about YouTube, it has a lot of features in it that allows, I guess, something that, I guess, so the challenge often with videos is that you start at the beginning and then you go to the end. But now there's chaptering, you can put like time codes and timestamps. So it actually makes a video quite referenceable and quite accessible from that sort of point. To the accessibility point, YouTube is accessible ish enough, but it does natively, I guess, allow for closed caption and all that sort of thing. So it means we're kind of hitting that accessibility mark. It's something that everyone knows how to use already. So there's no onboarding to a new format of interaction. So that's really, really handy. So I like that she's sort of looked at it and gone, okay, well, what's the outcome here? And it's to get, that education of the community. And then what's the simplest way of doing it without kind of reinventing the wheel and using a lot of budget on something that could be done, more simply. Again, keep it simple, stupid. So I like the methodology behind that. And then obviously, in terms of ownership and updating things, the client would be definitely able to be able to do that themselves because they just have the YouTube account. She'd probably be able to give a little bit of upskill on how to use Camtasia and rock and roll. And I guess I like the fact that she's considered that, a talking head approach allows for that connection of the presenter to the audience. And again, if you've got a really powerful presenter, they can be really great at building rapport and communicating messages really well. So yeah, I like that it's kind of a little bit outside of what we've seen so far.
Yeah. And YouTube's great as well. I'm just thinking of the analytics in the background. I'm not an expert, but it can show you, where are people coming from to find the content, and how long are they viewing? Are they then going on to view more videos? So I think from that perspective of where we spoke about before, what do people actually care about? There's a lot of data that would be valuable to help with Liberty City's content and information that they push out to the community moving forward. I think there's another slide there if you want to flick over and then give us your reaction to this as a proposed solution.
Yeah, so if you're using a tool like we're using OBS to break up screens and things like that. Kind of the sky's the limit with what you can do, because you can use overlays and different things like that. So yeah, I can see them being able to really drive. I think it would be really great to use videos for this solution. And you can replace and change videos very quickly, update videos. Like Raf said, the chaptering is great. I put that in yesterday's video. So yeah, it's a good idea. Very good idea.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for watching episode 3 of the show. I hope you've learned lots of valuable things. Raf, what are your key takeaways? What's one thing that you're going to action as a result of something you've been inspired by today, or a tool that you have seen?
I think that the key takeaway is just diversity of approaches. So, through all the examples we've seen, there's very different approaches and they can all work. I think for me that the one is, you don't have to kind of align with any particular one. So there's no right answer to this. I think the rightest answer is a blended answer. So I would kind of go, oh yes, the videos would be great for this bit. And then, the thing that looks like an app would be great to have as an app. So for people who are really motivated, get that on board. So it's great to see these ideas kind of forming and people tackling the same outcome in different ways. It shows that there's, a lot of creativity still to be had around kind of designing learning solutions. And the thing I'm excited about is accessibility being called out. So accessibility.
So we'll now say a massive thank you to Raf, the learning guy and the accessibility extraordinaire. And
the accessibility guy.
No, Raf, thank you so much for being on this episode and the perspectives that you've shared. I know that a lot of people will get value from what you've shared. I personally have got some good insights from you as well. And big love to everybody that has been part of this episode and their submissions. Well done on getting it in on time, but also for just thinking outside the box and being able to inspire the industry with solutions that are just different and the variety. So Kath, how can people vote for people?
This is the most important thing. So up on the right hand corner of your screen, you're going to see a little dot with an I. So all you're going to do is take your mouse and click on that and you'll vote for your favorite entry. Make sure you share your video and tell your friends and get them to vote. And we'll be announcing the winners on the show HQ. Milanote board as in the next few days. So yeah, we're guys, you've done a great job, so well done. Back to you, Kim.
All right, well, this is the end of episode 3. We've had loads and loads and loads of packed content, more episodes to come, but get voting so you can see who's going to make it into the next round of the Best Learning Designer 2020. And thank you for watching. We're very grateful.
Bye, guys.